Hello and welcome to The Forge. I like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, a lot. So much so, I've devoted myself to make an entire deck of cards based on my group's D&D characters. Much like most players, our visual representation of our characters exists in a strange state of reference art, Hero Forge minis, and our imaginations. That's why I find so much joy in illustrating them. My goal in this series is to depict the definitive version of each character. I want anyone to be able to look at one of these cards and get a sense of the character's story. And why cards? Because it's a fun challenge, and I just love sorting things into groups and figuring out which card fits a character best. This is part 3 of the series, so if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I recommend checking them out for some context. I'm turning 3 campaigns worth of D&D parties into tarot cards, and I'm using the same color palette for each one. In this video, we finish the story of the Mistborn and begin a new story, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. Distant, wandering, alone, with no memory of his life before, those he passed by simply refer to him as Traveler. Afflicted with a strange condition, he sought the only people in all of Jedi that could possibly help him. And so he arrived at the Mistborn's doorstep. It felt like his soul had been split in two, physically manifesting in a shadowy, flowing echo of himself. It appeared all too similar to the mist they had dispelled a year prior. When the Academy was attacked, Traveler joined the Mistborn, hoping to learn more about his affliction along the way. He witnessed firsthand the trauma that the gods left in their wake, yet couldn't shake a feeling of familiarity with divinity. He felt it when he swore to be Inari's champion, this strange sense of déjà vu. He felt it again when his friend Tai lost his life. He tried his best to intervene, but a divine hand prevented him. This had happened before. Through this new pain, he began to recall memories of his past. A long time ago, he went by the name of Viator, a Nephilim serving under the goddess Inari. However, when a conflict broke out amongst the gods, he was mortally wounded while trying to protect his goddess. In a last-ditch effort to save him, she sent him to the material plane where he could stay hidden from the one above all's forces. With his identity intact, Viator was finally whole, but the Mistborn were soon offered a choice. There was a vacancy in the Pantheon, room for a new god to be created that could tip the scales towards either side of the conflict. They had to choose which amongst them would become a god. However, this would mean leaving behind all they held dear. Everyone had a reason to refuse. Amliel had a family to raise. Sagon grew past his initial lie. Agami had a brother to look after. Viator had spent so long traveling from place to place, and finally found a reason to stay put. But heroes, no, legends, are forged from sacrifices. He would do whatever it took to protect his new home, even if it meant never being able to see any of them again. Viator ascended and became the god of travelers. And although he left many years ago, legends say his presence can still be felt, a blessing to all those who set out on a journey alone, that they will soon find companions to accompany them. Traveler is the Hermit. The Hermit suggests that you are in a state of introspection where you are drawing your attention inwards and looking for answers within. You are in need of a period of inner reflection, away from the current demands of your position. Find your light, shine it on your soul, and create your own unique path. Despite living in the same household for all their lives, Faun and Myri never met face to face. That is because when one fell asleep, the other would awake. Faun and Myri were an Eclipse Walker, a special type of elf born with 2 souls inhabiting the same body. They were born to a prestigious elven family, bearers of a sacred moonblade. However, no one in the family was capable of wielding it, until Faun picked it up. It had accepted her, and in association, it accepted Myri too. For years, this was their dynamic. One would act, and the other would receive the repercussions. Where Faun was bright and filled with rebellious flames, Myri was dark and reserved. Fire and water, the sun and the moon. Their only means of communication was a journal they shared, where they could recount their days to each other. Eventually, the two agreed to flee their stifling family and escape to the elven city of Sathrae. There, they got a job in the host tower until a band of adventurers named the Mistborn came into town. Faun jumped at the chance of a new adventure, dragging Myri along for the ride. After learning of the gods' plan to exterminate their people, Faun and Myri swore to save their home from destruction. Throughout their journey, the twins discovered new and better ways to communicate. They had never been closer. In the final fight with the One Above All, the Eclipse Walker was dealt a lethal blow. However, only Myri died, leaving Faun behind, alone in her body for the first time in her life. She was heartbroken. Their moonblade shared in the pain and split itself in two, creating a new body for Myri to be reborn into. Going forward, they were ready to live their new lives, separate, but still close. Faun and Myri are the lovers. The lovers represent relationships and choices. Its appearance in a spread indicates some decision about an existing relationship, a temptation of the heart, or a choice of potential partners. It is a card of open communication and raw honesty. It is a sign that by communicating openly and honestly with those you care about, you will create a harmonious and fulfilling relationship built on trust and respect. And so, the story of the Mistborn comes to a close. There is still one major player of the Mistborn I haven't included, but I put a limit on myself for this series of cards. See, including me, there are 7 members in our D&D group. With 22 major arcana cards, this allows me to make 3 cards for each of us with 1 left over. But over the course of 3 campaigns, we've made over 25 characters, so some have to be excluded. Maybe I can get around to depicting Null as one of the minor arcana cards. Or maybe I can include him in an Oracle deck, that way you can have the same amount of importance as a major arcana card. I guess we'll see when we get to that. Anyway, now we begin a new story, set in an all-new world. I introduce you to Materia, the planet of interest. The multiplanar war had come to an end, and the leader of the Drow army, Terran Thalcrest, was banished for his crimes. Our story starts 60 years later on Gracia, the continent of steel. What remained of Terran's forces formed to create the Lowlight Coalition, an organization dedicated to spreading chaos around the globe. They sought to free their leader and plunge the world into darkness. However, a group of unlikely heroes arose to face them. This is the story of the Solar Flare. War is messy, despite what the victors want you to think. The world knew the results of the Drow invasion, but careful use of propaganda resulted in next to no one understanding the events that led up to it. To Sathrae, the reason was simple. Their world was dying, and they needed a haven. The people of the Shadowfell pleaded with the leaders of the material plane to grant them a place to escape to, but their cries fell on uncaring ears. Desperate and afraid, it was easy for a sociopath to weaponize their fear and disenfranchisement towards invading the material plane. It worked on a young and impressionable Sathrae. After 60 years, she became a paladin of the Lowlight Coalition, willing to use whatever force necessary to achieve what was best for her people. But once she finally crossed over to the material plane and was free to think for herself, she saw that her companions were fueled by wrath rather than altruism. Terran went from war hero to warmonger in her eyes, and while she still wanted to save her people, she needed to find another way. She sought out the Solar Flare and joined them on their quest to right the wrongs of the scarred world. Although she proved to be a valuable combatant, she was stern and stilted in her relationships with the rest of the group. However, every once in a while, she let her softer side show, whether it be through her admiration of watching the sunrise, or the care she showed her Pegasus eclipse. After defeating the tyrannical Terran, Sathrae led her people out of the Shadowfell and into a sanctuary set aside by her compatriots. She became a true champion of the darkness, having led her civilization into the light. Sathrae is death. The death card is probably the most feared and misunderstood of all of the cards in the tarot deck. However, it can be one of the most positive cards in the deck. After a period of pause and reflection, The death card symbolizes the end of a major phase or aspect of your life that you realize is no longer serving you, opening up the possibility of something far more valuable and essential. So that's it for this batch of cards. The Hermit, the Lovers, and Death. These three fit their respective cards perfectly in my opinion. Tell me which are your favorite in the comments below. What card do you think your D&D character would fit best? You know what to do. Like, subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming to the Forge.